Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here and you love crochet, you should definitely subscribe, hang out. I have a ton of crochet videos coming out, especially Halloween ones, because it is spooky season. It's almost fall. In my mind, it's been fall since like August. So I have plenty coming, and that includes today. Today I'll be making the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I had to wear the t-shirt because, you know, it just feels right to wear a Ghostbusters t-shirt while you make a Ghostbusters character. Now, first things first, the yarn. I'll be using Premier's Little Bunny. I hope I have enough. I only have 2 skeins of this. I don't particularly know what I was thinking when I risked it with only buying 2 skeins, but I'm pretty sure when I made my lobster, which was another video, I only used 1, maybe like a little bit more than 1. So this should be good, I hope, because I want to make this I want to make him cuddle size. So hopefully we have enough. And then I also did not need this much of either of these to make him, but here we are. We have the Premier Basic DK in the color Royal Blue and in the color Cherry Red to make his details, and of course this is just the color white. So let me grab my hook because I did not bring that over here, as well as my other tools we'll be needing, so we can touch on that and then we'll get started. All right, so you'll also need probably some black acrylic yarn, which I always just go to the Dollar Tree and buy these because it's always a necessity to have some black acrylic yarn. But this will be either for just the mouth or the eyes if you don't want to do safety eyes. I think I'm gonna do safety eyes. We'll see, but you'll also need safety eyes if you prefer. You'll need stitch markers. If somebody can tell me the proper name of this, I call it a crochet needle, a yarn needle, but it is literally just like a large sewing needle meant for yarn. And then, so this requires a 8mm hook because I want my stitches nice and tight. I'm gonna go with either 6 or 5. I'll probably start with the 6, make sure it's tight enough where I won't have stuffing popping out at all, and if it's not, I'll go down. But for the most part, I'll probably be doing a 6, as well as for this, I need 4mm for this one, these two, to make his little hat and his little little sailor suit. So there's that. But yeah, those are the tools you need. Those are the yarns you need, and I hope I'm not missing anything, but you will find out as we go. So let's get started. All right, so we are going to start with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's body. I am somebody who generally starts with the head because I enjoy seeing the face and kind of being able to visualize it a little more. But sometimes with sizing, and then also when I feel like I potentially might be playing a little bit of yarn chicken, I feel like the head I can kind of make either too big or too small. And I think if I start with the body this time, we'll even out the sizes a little bit. Now we do want to start with a magic ring. I am not good at the magic ring. I have tried many times. It actually has been a while since I discovered this way of doing a magic ring, where I was like, I give up. I am going to do this instead every time. So maybe I should try it again. But for now, I crochet 4, and then I go into the first stitch, pull through, and I have a tight little magic ring. Next step is I'm going to pull my yarn through here, and sometimes I do get lost on this one, so I am going to put a stitch marker in, if even possible. Let's jump back a little bit. So I'm going to go into the very center of our magic ring, and I'm going to pull a stitch through, then I'm going to do the same thing 6 times. So that's 2, 3, oops, 4, 5, then 6, and then I am now going to use a stitch marker. You can use a stitch marker during this part, like I think I was going to in the previous clip, but I was having trouble seeing where my stitches went, which is, I know, a problem. So, you know, a stitch marker would be great. But we're going to start using our stitch marker now. So I'm going to go into what my first stitch was, and I'm going to do 1. White is so hard to see, this white fluffy yarn. Then go into the same stitch and go pull out a second. Then we're going to go into the next stitch twice, so that would be 3 and 4. Then go into the very next stitch for 5, then 6. And we're going to go all the way around. So my first official round, in my opinion, I don't count the last one as my first round. Maybe that's controversial. I count this one, and I'm going to have 12 stitches. Now I'm back around to my start here. And I'm going to go back into here again. And because I'm using a smaller hook than what's recommended, I'm going to do another round of doubling up my stitches. So I'm going to put 2 stitches in every stitch. So I'll have a total of 24 for my second round. Typically, when you see a lot of people doing like the magic ring in general, you'll see them like doing 2, then 1, then 2, then 1. But from my personal experience, when using the magic circle and using smaller hooks to kind of tighten up my work, I find that a lot of times I end up having like my bottom not flat enough. So that's why I'm putting 2 stitches all the way around for the second time. I have made it back around to the start, which this still looks so small for having 24 stitches in it. Now, there's a lot of ways you could go. If you want to make a mini marshmallow, you'll definitely want to obviously make it smaller, and from here on go a slightly different route with how many stitches you do. A lot of times I make these and I tell you, you can make it whatever size you want. This is more of an inspiration. If you want to make it exactly like I do, you can follow my tutorial. If you want to watch my tutorial and get an idea of how to make it and then make it your own, where maybe use different yarns, use different colors, you make it smaller or bigger. That's the beautiful part about crochet, is you can always make it your own. So this time, because we went around twice, I'm going to do, for round number 3, I'm going to put 2 into the first one, then 1 into the next one, then 2 into the third, and then 1 into the fourth, previous one, then 2, then 1, and we're going to do that all the way around. And I could give you a number if I was better at math, but I'm not, so just follow that pattern all the way around. I went all the way around, and if you were wondering about using fluffy yarn for the first time, for me, I used Hobby Yarns. I don't remember the name of it, but I highly recommend that because, and I recommend not using like white or black, trying to use a color, because you probably can't barely see it, but there are stitches that you can see when you use fluffy yarn. It's a little more difficult, especially in this white yarn, basically impossible, because the, like in previous ones, especially when I use color yarn, like I made a corally colored lobster not that long ago, the actual like string, a part of the fluffy, like this part of the fluffy right here, is a lot clearer in colorful yarn. So if you've never used it, I don't know if this is the right color to use, but you can definitely always try it. Anyways, we're back around to the front. We're going to go into our first stitch. A lot of this is just like me feeling the stitches more than anything, and we're gonna put 2, and then we're gonna go 1 single, oop, went too far, 1 single stitch, then second single stitch, then go 2 in, the same one, then 1 in 1, 1 in the next one, then 2. And then, make sure I don't miss a stitch, 1, then 1. And we're gonna go all the way around with that one. All right, so just to save time and not make this video forever long, this round we're gonna put 2 into our first stitch, then 3 single stitches, then 2 into the next stitch, then 3 single stitches, and then go all the way around back to the start. Here is what the last round looked like, and now we're gonna do 2 into the first stitch, then go 1, 2, 3, 4 single stitches, then 2 into the next, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way back to the start. All right, so now I think this will be our last round. I'm not completely sure yet because sometimes it's a little hard to visualize, but once again I'm going to put 2 stitches into the first, then go 5 single stitch, then 2 stitches into the next, then 5 single stitches, then 2 stitches, all the way back around to the beginning. I should have trusted my gut. I have frogged a little bit of work, but the last clip I did, that was my last expanding round, and now I'm just going to do a single stitch into every stitch all the way around and keep going until my desired height. I am starting to believe that I don't have enough yarn, so I might have to run out and mix match my yarn. Hopefully it won't be too big of a deal. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and do my standard rounds, and I will count how many I do, and then I'll let you know how many just straight single stitches we do before we start reducing again. I also wanted to touch real quick on, I still have this part that is just like a little too big. I obviously, and I've had this happen before, like I said, fluffy yarn can be a little difficult. So basically what I'm going to do is I have a stitch marker here, so it can be a nice round circle and not have this like awkward space. And I'm just going to go from this stitch into this stitch, connecting them. And then once I get a little further along, I am going to sew this bit together so it's kind of smooth on the outside. Right now it makes like a little butt cheek, but we'll stitch it where it's nice and smooth on the back and it won't be too noticeable. So this is so I've done 10 rounds of just single stitches, not expanding or decreasing. I think I'm going to do a I'll probably go by 2s and see how I feel. This looks like almost midpoint, maybe 2 more to get to midpoint, so I have a feeling I might be doing about 5 more rounds, but we'll see. Like I said, I'll do 2 at a time and kind of look at the size we have and go from there. He is ending up a little bit bigger than I'd been planning. I will definitely need some more yarn, I think, which is unfortunate, but we're gonna keep going. All right, so I ended up going 3 more rounds, aka 13 in total. And I'll be stopping here with my staying the same, and I'm gonna very slowly decrease, as well as this is how much yarn I have left. I might be able, this doesn't look like much, but fluffy yarn does go a little ways, so I'm hoping I will have very close to enough to finish his body. So to decrease, we're going to do the opposite of what we were doing before. So putting 2 stitches in one, we're going to put 1 stitch into 2. So as of right now, this is into 1 and this is into 2. So this is my loop. What is this called? I don't remember, but here's a loop from my first stitch. Here's a loop from my second stitch. I'm going to pull through. So I'm going to have 2 stitches into 1, and then I think I don't want to decrease too quickly, so I think I'm going to do 8 and then decrease do 2 stitches into 1, then 8, and see how it's looking. Also, I was not using a stitch marker other than to keep track of like where my first round was when I was just going around and around. But this time I will be using a stitch marker so I know exactly where I started my round. So that's just a little tidbit. But I'm going to decrease again, so I'm going to put 2 stitches in 1, go 7, 2 stitches into 1, 7, all the way around. I will probably do that, and at some point I will not decrease a round or 2 here and there, because like I said, I don't want it to be too drastic and make his body a little too short, but we will just see. Alright, I came over here to give a better look at my how to reduce. So this is going to be 1 and then go into the next stitch 2, so you have 3 loops on, then pull your yarn through, put your stitch marker to your first stitch, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we're gonna go into 1, into the next one, pull through, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, 5 again, and 6, and then 1, 2, all the way to the start. All right, so I've gone all the way around and we're not reducing too drastically yet. I'm basically going to reduce down to the size where his head will go. I still haven't completely decided what size head I want to do. He does have like a much smaller head than his body, but I also want to make it like proportionate in aesthetic wise when it comes to a plush. So I'm going to reduce this round and then I'm going to release it and think about what I want to do for the head. So I'm going to do the same thing, 2 stitches into 1, 5, 2 stitches into 1, 5, go all the way around. I'm going to continue to decrease. This time I'm going to put 2 stitches into 1, then go 4, 2 stitches into 1, go 4, 2 stitches into 1, all the way back to the start. Now, because I'm worried it might kind of like get a little wonky because of how big this was, I definitely should have done more like 2 stitches into 1 and then 10 to start, but it's fine, whatever. We're just gonna do 2 stitches into 1 and then 4 again, 2 stitches into 1, 4 again, because we'll still be reducing, but we won't get to like where it's like pulling too much, if you know what I mean. As well as I'm definitely getting to the point where I'm almost to his head, and this is how much yarn I have left, so I might have enough to go around one more time, maybe a little bit more, but yes, we're definitely close to the part where I want to put his head. I think I'm going to make his head about like this big, so maybe 1 or 2 more rounds, and I'm just going to leave it open so I can attach like an open head to the open body like so, and then it's going to pinch with his little sailor outfit. So that's kind of where I'm going from here. Alright, so I haven't done anything other than what I just showed you guys, and I do think I'm gonna make his head bigger than it typically is, because I think that makes the most sense, just like visually looking at this and kind of envisioning it. I think if I make his head any smaller than what it would be matching up with this, it would look just a wee bit funny. So I'm going to stop here with the body and I'm going to start on the head. On to skein number 2. Sorry for shaking the table. Now we're going to work on the head. I did like nearly perfectly have just enough yarn in skein 1 for the body. So we might be lucky here. and getting away with some yarn chicken, but might be speaking too soon. All right, so I'm going to do my 1, 2, 3, 4, go into the end and create our magic ring. And basically we're gonna do the same start we did last time, go into the center, and then do 6 stitches. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oops. And 6, and then we're going to go into the first stitch. Maybe go into the first stitch. Go into the first stitch and do 1, then 2, go back to the first one and mark it. Then go into the second stitch and put 2 stitches. So you'll have a total of 12 stitches all the way around. And then we're gonna go around again, doing 2 stitches into every stitch. So for our next round, we'll have a total of 24 stitches. Okay, so here's kind of like a little quick visual of what I'm doing. So I'm trying to make his head circle about this big. This is after the last one. Now you can kind of see where we're going. Probably only need like 2 to 3 more rounds, but we shall see. All right, now we're gonna do 2 rounds into this, or 2 rounds, oh my goodness. We're gonna do 2 stitches into this, then 1 stitch, 2 stitches, 1 stitch, 2 stitches, 1, all the way around, just like we had done with the body. And continuing the pattern, I'm gonna put 2 into 1, then 1, 2, 2 into the next, 1, 2, all the way around. All right, here is after that round, and I think this might be our last round. We're gonna do 2 into here, the first stitch, then 1, 2, 3, then 2 into the next stitch, then 1, 2, 3, all the way around. I think that's a pretty good fit, but I'm worried it might still look like a little awkward at this size. Like, let me try and like lay it out at like, I don't know, maybe that would be a good fit. I think I need to do 1 more round. I think it would still be just like, he looks like his head's a little too small. So I'm gonna do 1 more round. So I'm gonna do 2 stitches into 1, then 4 single stitches, then 2 stitches into 1, then 4, all the way around. So this is what it looks like after my last round, which I think is a good size. It's still gonna be smaller than the rest of his body, but it's not gonna be too small. I think if I made a proportional to the images, his head would just look too small, at least for my liking. So from here on out, I'm just going to do single stitch in every stitch and no longer expand. And in case you're wondering what this is where my kitty sits. When I have my days off, I hang out with my little cat, and he likes to lay in his little bed while I sit next to him and crochet. So take a little kitty cat break, because we can all use that, can't we? So I did 9 rounds of just straight putting my stitches in, not increasing or decreasing. And now I'm going to decrease this one. So I'm going to do 2 stitches into 1, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 stitches into 1, 5, 2 stitches into 1, 5, all the way around. All right, I'm going to do 1 more round of reducing, and then I think I'm done with the head. It looks a little short, but I think once it's like stuffed and all put together, it'll look right. If not, I'll come back and update, but we're gonna do 1 stitch into 2, so I'm gonna loop through this one and this one, then do 4, then keep going all the way around. This is kind of an interesting way to visualize it, but I do think I need to make this have 1 more round, or the head have 1 more round. I'm trying to make sure they line up really well, and I think they do, but I think with just like the head size, I need 1 more round, just staying the same, not increasing or decreasing, just to kind of give it a little more height, because I think I'm gonna put his eyes like right here, and I don't want his mouth like on his chest, if that makes sense. All right, so I have all my eyes. I think that's actually a good size. Maybe they're a little too small. Let me play around with it. I decided to go up a size. This was the previous size. I'm gonna go up a size, and his eyes are pretty spaced out. So I'm gonna space out his eyes, and I'm gonna click them. I'm starting on the arm, and so I'm gonna start with 4 and put the stitch into the last and make a magic. And like before, you're gonna put 6 stitches into the center. Next, we're gonna put 2 stitches in each stitch, so we'll have the next round be 12 stitches altogether. Now I'm going to just do rounds of 12 to make a nice tube shape. And I might have miscounted here. I think I did 9 rounds, but we're gonna make sure we count properly this time, and I will let you know. All right, so I was wrong. I did 10 rounds to make his length of his arms. And then you make a second one and you have 2 arms. Now I'm going to start similarly for the legs, but I'm gonna make them a little wider. All right, I think I'm gonna win yarn chicken. I don't wanna get confident yet because I still have 1 leg left, but that's what we will be doing now. We're going to crochet our 4 and put into the end to make our magic ring. And then like our other steps, we did 6 stitches into the center, and now we're going to put 2 stitches into each stitch, so our next round will have 12 stitches in total. All right, and because I want his legs to be chunkier than his arms, I'm gonna go around one more time, putting 2 stitches into every stitch, so our next round will be 24 stitches in total. Now I'm going to do 7 rounds of not expanding or decreasing. I'm just gonna do 24 stitches for each round 7 times. All right, and for my last round on this, just kind of like have it come in a little bit to make it, in my opinion, look a little nicer. I don't know, I might be making stuff up, but you know, this is a part of making your own pattern. I'm gonna put 2 stitches into one, so I'm gonna go into my first stitch and my second stitch, make 1, and then go 4 single stitches, then 2 stitches into 1 all the way around, and that will be my final round, and I won yarn chicken. I'm so excited. I added 1 more round to the body because like you guys saw before, I had not enough yarn. So I used the little tiny bit left of the rest of my second skein to do this. So I literally have this much left. I highly recommend getting 3 skeins of yarn, or equal to about like 250 yards if you're trying to make the exact same size, just so you don't have to worry about only having this much left. I put stuffing in his arms and legs, and I'm going to stitch it to his body, and I'm just going to use my yarn needle to do that. All right, I forgot to mention I'm going to use white acrylic yarn to attach all the pieces together. This is definitely optional, but I just find it a lot more pleasant to do it that way. So you want to get a good enough piece, but not too much where you're kind of like fighting with it. Going to use my thinner crochet needle here. And basically I have him laid flat, kind of like where I want the like front to be. And I'm gonna kind of put his arms off to the side of his body like they would be in the movie. They're kind of higher up, so I'm gonna kind of pick the spot I want them to go. I'm just going to use the, I'm going to weave my acrylic yarn all the way through, which is not what I want. Going to pull it partly through, then I'm gonna go back, weave it on here, and I'm going to go ahead and tie it off so I don't lose my yarn like that again. Tie it nice and tight, and I'll tie it again once I go all the way around. And basically I'm just going to go all the way around, making sure that his arm is fully attached to the body. This also is a great point if you have not had too much experience with sewing your pieces together, to use some like stitch markers to hold everything in place, or even just clothespins Also, don't overstuff the arms. When you do the body and head, you'll want to make sure he's really stuffed, but the arms, don't overstuff because he'll be kind of too stiff. I like mine to be kind of like floppy and cuddly, so I make sure they're not too stuffed. Once you have gone all the way around and attached his arm, like I said, I'm gonna just take my extra yarn, didn't really mean to throw that, and tie it off on the inside here. And this time I will use stitch markers for the other arm to kind of hold it in place so I can have his arms at the same spot. But as you can see, because I didn't overstuff it, he kind of has a little bit of movement to his arms. Next, we're just going to attach the legs in the same way as the arms. This time I'm going to kind of center towards the bottom of his body to put them on there, and then we'll come back to do his hat because I cannot attach his head and stuff the body and his head until I make the hat because that's going to be attached to his head. He looks a little, he reminds me a little bit more of Baymax with shorter arms, but that's okay. So I think I want to add his mouth next because I think it'll just give him a little bit more life. Now generally when we see the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and even the minis, he has kind of like an open mouth smile. But I think the best way to do that is if you have like felt. Like I know a lot of people use felt to make mouths and stuff, but I do not have that. So I am just going to make him smiling and then kind of add little like cheeks, so to speak. But yeah, so I'm going to take my black acrylic, and his mouth kind of goes from like eye to eye. So I'm going to pull, but not my yarn all the way through. Then go straight across. Oh no, he's so sad. He looks more and more like Baymax like that. And then I'm gonna pull my yarn down. I'm not going to give him the V smile. I know that's what like a lot of people do. I am gonna kind of like soften it where he has kind of more, I think that's too deep of a smile. Let's try by giving him his little, like, I guess dimples would be the right word. Yeah, let me play around with his smile a little bit, then we'll come back. I don't know why I can't stop saying Baymax. That definitely has to be like one of the next ones I make. But anyways, I'm going to adjust his smile a little bit. I did his like little, I guess, dimples right to the side of his mouth. So I could kind of give it like an angled look here. Hold on, there we go. Go through the same loop as the, there we go. So I can kind of attach it that way. So I go through where I put the smile, then loop through this, and then go back through that same hole. So he kind of has like a little bit of a cheeky, like dimply smile there. So yeah, there's gonna be his face, I think. I think that's pretty decent. Like I said, it would be a lot better if it was like an open mouth smile, but this I think is the best I can do with yarn. You could definitely embroider one, but my skill set is not there. All right, now with our acrylic yarn, I'm going to start making his hat, which I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing with all our other circles. I'm going to do 4, then twist and pull, then I'm going to crochet 6 in, oops, the middle here. Got to go into the middle to do it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And if your center hole is a little big, you can pull this a little bit, but not a ton. And then we're going to do 2 stitches into every stitch, getting to 12. And I got my handy dandy stitch marker. This is going to be so much easier to see. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to go all the way around You'll also have to excuse any sound in the background. My son is playing, but we're gonna do the same thing again, 2 stitches in each one to make 24. This one's not as important to do 2 stitches in each one because I'm using the correct size hook for this, because his hat can have a little air in between it since I'm not going to stuff his hat, but I still, just for ease of the pattern, going to do 2 stitches into every stitch. So for the next one, we're going to do 2 stitches into one, and then we're gonna go 1, then 2 stitches into the next one, then 1, then 2 stitches into the next one, and we're gonna go all the way around. I think I'm gonna do one more round and then we'll be done. So we'll go 1, and then a second one into that same stitch, and then go 1, 2, then 2 into the same one, then 1, 2. We're gonna do that all the way around. All right, this round we are going to just go into each stitch once. So we're just gonna go around, put a single stitch in each stitch. If you're counting, that means you just do the same amount of stitches as your previous round. All right, so I did a second row of just staying the same, and now I'm gonna reduce because he has like a little thin top, almost like chef's hat. I'm gonna reduce and then tell you exactly what I did because I'm undecided if it's gonna work. So let me go ahead and try. All right, so how I reduced is I put 2 stitches into one, then I went 1 single stitch, 2 single stitch, is 2 stitches into one, all the way around, so I have like a very tightly done thing. And then this time I'm going to do 2 stitches into one, then 1, 2 stitches into one, then 1, and hopefully I can slowly go inward a little bit so I can add the blue for his hat. All right, so I'm stopping right here and I'm gonna add the little red detailing next, and then we're gonna switch to blue. All right, for the red, I did a starting chain of 10, and then I'm gonna turn my work and do 9 stitches. And then I'm just going to stitch the little red piece into the center with the 2, as well as pull my original tail through as well. I added his little red, I don't know what it is, like decoration on his hat. Now to switch to the blue, I'm going to take this loop and just switch it out for blue. So I have my blue yarn on the end, and I'm just gonna pull my yarn through and then start with the blue, and I'm just gonna put a single stitch in every stitch all the way around. Now if I keep going the way I am, it's just gonna come together. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put my stitches into this one and these up here and try to make it come down. We will see if that works. If not, I will just make a separate piece. So let's try that out first. Basically what I mean, instead of going in here, I'm gonna go in these upper pieces to make it come downward. All right, so what I was gonna do didn't work. So I'm gonna close this off, and then I'm gonna do a couple of rounds to make this have like a little piece that sticks out across the bottom. All right, so I did a starting chain of 28, and now I'm just going to reverse my work and do 2 rows of single crochet to give it a little bit of height, and then we're gonna attach it to this. I left a nice long tail to be able to stitch it to this, but first I'm going to connect the 2 ends, stitch those together, then I will stitch it to here, and then it will be stitched to Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's head. Look at his little hat, and he finally looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So I was thinking whether or not to use white to attach his hat, but I think I am going to use blue, so I'm not going to stuff his hat. That is definitely optional. If you want it to be a little more puffy, you can, but I kind of want it to sit flat. But I'm going to cut like a good length of blue yarn and I'm gonna stitch it on the side of his head. All right, his hat is attached. It is time to assemble him and stuff him. I'm very excited because I feel like he'll really come together now. And then I have to stuff as much as I can, and then I will use acrylic white yarn to attach his head to his body. Now if you only wanted to make a Stay Puft mini marshmallow guy, he would be done, because the mini marshmallows I think only have the little hat. But I'm gonna make the full-on Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, so I'm gonna make his little ascot. And yeah, he still looks a little like Baymax, but he's very cute. He's nice and squishy with the stuffing I put in him. But I think once I put the little ascot and the little blue sailor piece, I think it will really tie him together. But there he is so far. Now for the little ascot, it's gonna depend on your personal Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I did a starting chain of 90 because I want it to stick out the bottom of his little blue sailor collar. So I want it to be a little longer. It goes about not quite halfway down his belly, and now I'm going to flip my work and go all the way around. So I did a half double row, and I think that's actually like the perfect thickness. So I'm gonna cut a long tail and stitch this into him. I'm probably not gonna go all the way around for it, but I will at least stitch it about like this far. All right, his little ascot is attached through here. Here it is just loose. And now I'm going to do a little collar, which will wrap around and cut to about here. So I think I also will do a half double, but I'm going to do my starting chain and see how much I need. I'm also gonna do the front and then a separate back piece and attach them together. I think that will be easiest. Do a starting chain of 30, leaving a nice long tail to attach it to the other side. Starting chain of 30, then turn your work. We're gonna do several half doubles, and I'll count how many rows we do and then let you know. So I have done 3 rows, and because it kind of comes inward a little bit on him, I am going to reduce my end. I'm going to skip a stitch, then go into 2 and make it 1 and go across to kind of angle it a little bit. All right, here is what 1/2 of the collar looks like, and there's 7 rows, and like I said, after the 3rd I started going inward so we can kind of look loosely like that. I am going to add a couple of stitches on here to secure it, like kind of how he has like thick, but yep, that's him so far. I decided this one fit his back better, so I'm gonna do the front a little differently. I'm only gonna do 25 of a starting chain and make it a little bit more angular from the start to kind of look a little nicer to the front and have more solid edges. Here is kind of, I know it's dark, the difference between the front and the back piece. It's still not quite perfect. I think in his it's a little bit more squared off, but this is what I'm gonna do for now. I'm gonna stick to it and I'm gonna stitch it onto him. I think eventually I'm also gonna add a white trim, but I am done crocheting for the night. We're gonna put on his little collar here and he's gonna be complete. All right, here he is. I still have some ends to weave in, but he is complete as he's gonna get in this video and tonight. I think he turned out pretty cute. I always have the problem where my imagination is much larger than my skill, so sometimes I'm a little disappointed when they're done, but he is very cute. And I think if I were to give anyone a tip, if you watch this video through or skip to the end, before making him, I'd make his arms longer, and I think that would make a big difference. I also potentially would make smaller eyes, but those are just like my 2 qualms. I like his little stubby legs, but you could also make his legs longer. But I think he's overall Very cute. I'm very proud of him. Like I said, he took way longer than I had intended. It is literally nighttime outside. I have to go to work early tomorrow, but I wanted to finish him, and I think he was worth it because he's so cute, and the stuffing I used in him makes him squishy and very like marshmallowy to me. But yes, I love him. I'm definitely gonna weave in his ends tomorrow. I'm going to add a little white trim tomorrow, and I will do a short. I almost called it a reel. I will do it a short to like show off his little additions. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye!